Hello and welcome to the weekly newscast by First Ukraine. My name is Victoria Zabiyan and we are ready to present you latest news for outgoing week. Russian court announced the verdict for Ukrainian pilot Nadiya Savchenko, 22 years of imprisonment. More details watching the following story.
22 years in colony and fine, 30,000 Russian rubles for Ukrainian pilot Nadiya Savchenko. After 2 days of reading this case, Donetsk court in Rostov region announced the verdict. The court finds that the alibi of Savchenko charged in murder of Russian journalists during the trial was not proven. Court haven't any doubt that Savchenko is guilty in all items of the prosecution. In pronouncing of the final sentence of the case, Nadiya began to sing joking version of Ukrainian song with words "burning tires blazing." The song also included phrases about judges. "Oh judges, judges, you judge me so long, but will not judge more, cause you will go to prison themselves." Reaction after the verdict followed at all levels. First, the lawyer of Savchenko, Lyubov, said that Ukraine is preparing to open proceeding against the judges who rendered her verdict. Then other lawyer, Mark Fagin, said, if there wasn't such a public campaign of support Savchenko, not only in Ukraine but also in many other countries, Savchenko probably would go to the colony. But thanks to this support, Savchenko will not depart this punishment. I guarantee it. President of Ukraine Petro Poroshenko ready to exchange Savchenko for 2 Russian employees of General Intelligence Agency, Alexander Alexandrov and Yevgeny Yerofeev.
Ukraine will never recognize, I'm repeating, never recognize this tribunal or this so-called verdict, cruelty and absurdity which show the return of Russian justice to the Stalin-Vyshinsky time. In turn, I'm ready to transfer to Russia 2 Russian servicemen detained in our territory for their participation in the armed aggression against Ukraine. Consideration of their case is at the final stage, and immediately after its completion, I am ready through appropriate procedures to ensure their visit to the Russian Federation.
Nadiya Savchenko is not going to submit appeal. Real political way to release her is exchange. At the 23rd of March, President Poroshenko convened National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine about special Savchenko's list with name of guilty person in her case. Ukraine will apply sanctions against those people. Nadiya Savchenko is going to start dry hunger strike again.
USA are strongly oriented on defense and sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine, including Crimea. Also, they demand to release Nadiya Savchenko and other political prisoners of Ukraine. It was reported by John Kerry during his visit to Moscow. Press conference happened after the meeting of U.S. Secretary of State with Russian President. Negotiations of John Kerry and Vladimir Putin continued near 4 hours. It is the 3rd visit of State Secretary to Russian Federation for the last 10 months. During the summer briefing, head of Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs Lavrov did not mention Ukrainian question, but American representative concentrated exactly on it. Disappeared advocate Yuri Grabovsky was found dead. He was the defender of Russian intelligence officer Alexander Alexandrov, who was captured in Donbass 1 year ago. Yuri Grabovsky disappeared on the beginning of March. Because of this, the hearing of case of Russian intelligence officers were postponed. The court continues the arrest of Russian Chief Intelligence Directorate officers Alexandrov and Yerofeev till 19th of May. The sitting break will be continued till 5th of April. It is connected with the fact that suspected Alexandrov has new advocate. This week, Valentin Rybin has become the defender of Alexander Alexandrov. He asked for some time in order to get acquainted with materials of the case. There are already 6 volumes of them. Mr. Rybin said that he wanted to defend Russian earlier, but according to him, because of the pressure of pre-trial, he took the state advocate. This week, Valentin Rybin is officially advocating case of intelligence officers. Cruel terroristic act in Belgium. On 22nd of March, 3 explosions happened in Brussels, at the airport and near the metro station Malbec. Near 8 o'clock, according to local time, suicide bomber exploded in the departure hall of Zaventem airport. 1 hour after the accident, the explosion at the Malbec metro station in the center of Brussels. More than 30 people are killed, 300 injured. Witnesses of the taxi driver helped to find one more bag with bomb in the airport Zaventem. Explosive liquids and bomb were also found in the building from which driver carried terrorists. Islamic State group took the responsibility for the attack. Thanks to security cameras, police identified the personalities of 2 terrorists. They are brothers Khalid and Brahim El-Bakroui. Najim Lashvari assisted them. All of them are suspected in involvement to terroristic acts in Paris on 30th of November 2013. After the explosions, authorities announced the first-level terroristic threat in Belgium. According to law enforcement's data, terrorists were planning to commit one more terroristic act at the nuclear power station, but they did not manage to do this because of the enhancing of security. Referendum concerning association agreement between Ukraine and the EU in Netherlands coming soon. In 2 weeks, Dutch citizens will express their points of view answering one question: are you in favor or against association agreement with Ukraine? For now, opposite camps are providing their campaigns. On 6th of April, citizens of Netherlands will take part in consultative referendum concerning association between Ukraine and the EU. One question will be put to vote: are you in favor or against association agreement between Ukraine and the EU? Coming voting is followed not by political discussion as Netherlands and EU saw in Ukraine. The latest results of social surveys show that 35% of Netherlanders are going to vote for association agreement with Ukraine and 36% against. This is the results of social survey conducted by Direct Research Company, which were published on the website of D66 party, which initiated the campaign in support of association agreement. High-level officials also support the association agreement with Ukraine. Dutch Minister for Foreign Trade Lilian Ploumen visited Ukraine, and during her meeting with Ukrainian officials he stated that she will vote yes for EU-Ukraine association agreement because Ukrainian people die for democracy. Moreover, Dutch MPs in the European Parliament assured that the association agreement will bring economic benefits to both countries.
What I want from him is basically 2 things. I want him to campaign in order to get a yes vote in this referendum, because it's about trade, it's not about membership.
Nevertheless, there is an opposite camp of officials who do not support association agreement, arguing that association agreement will provoke a new wave of migrants to Europe, undermine the security in the region and make a new hit in European economy. Head of European Commission Jean-Claude Juncker stated that it is wrong understanding of EU-Ukraine association because it does not mean that joining Ukraine to EU. Some Dutch citizens understand association agreement in a wrong way and guess it is the first step on the way to membership. In reality, Ukraine will not be able to join EU in nearest 20-25 years. Words of European Commission head were explained as the evaluation of all tryings of Ukraine to become a part of European community, but experts assure that in this way higher European officials calm down opponents of association agreement. Our opponents use substitution of notions. In Holland, they spread the thesis that this is not the association agreement, but the membership agreement. But even if Dutch citizens vote against the association agreement between EU and Ukraine, it will not have groundbreaking legal force because in referendum has the consultative character in issue. And today our guest in the studio is Lyubov Akulenko, coordinator of European programs at the NGO Center UA. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
So you're expert in Netherlands a question of referendum concerning Ukrainian association agreement with EU. So the first question is what the expectations of experts concerning the results of referendum from Ukrainian side and from European one.
It's difficult to say about our expectations since at the moment nobody knows what we should do if the results of referendum will be negative. since it's like a big phenomena for European Union. It's the first time when one of the members of EU countries have an idea to block association agreements, since EU has lots of association agreements with Korea and other countries, but it's at the moment it's difficult to say what are our expectations. But due to this referendum, for example, we start to analyze our trade relations between Netherlands and Ukraine, and at the moment we understand that Netherlands are one of the biggest investors in our economy, and association agreement, if Ukraine implement association agreement successfully, Dutch investors receive lots of profits. And if we do not have this agreement, they will not receive all these profits. For example, what do Dutch companies sell in Ukraine? They sell a lot of tractors for agrarian companies. Since
I heard that this is the main point of cooperation between the countries, agriculture sector.
Not only, but agriculture is very popular, since Ukraine is agricultural country, but we do not have good equipment, we do not have good technologies, and Dutch investors are helping us very much. And for example, now when Dutch companies are selling to Ukraine these tractors, agrarian tractors, they have to pay custom duties like 5 or 10%. According to association agreement, in 4 years, they will not be obliged to pay these custom taxes. It will be like zero. And other products like tulips, Ukrainian people like to buy a lot of tulips on the eve of March 8. It's like our National Women's Day. And also they have to pay like 5 or 10% of custom duties. And in 4 years it will be zero. Not all people understand these difficult figures, but it's true. Association agreement will bring like zero tariffs for most of Dutch products that are very popular in Ukraine.
Right here in the studio, we're doing very important, I think, thing, because we're explaining the trade benefits for both sides, because a lot of European citizens guess that the association agreement means the membership in European Union. So, on what points should Yes camp concentrate during their campaign on the eve of referendum?
I think that the first message that you mentioned, that association agreement, it's not about membership. It's just trade agreement that EU has with lots of countries, with Turkey, with Korea, and other countries on Balkans. It's first message. Second message, association agreement, trade part of association agreement is like 80%. So it's really pure trade agreement.
So why the Dutch citizens afraid so much this association agreement with Ukraine?
Because I think
they have a precedence with other countries, maybe on the other continents, of association agreement. Why do they think that Ukraine is going to become a member right here and right now?
I think that there are several reasons. First reason is the high level of Eurosceptical moods in EU, not only in the Netherlands. And Ukraine is like a country that do not have very good associations for EU. Ukraine is, if you ask Dutch people something about Ukraine, the answer will be Ukraine is a corrupted country, Ukraine has war, and etc., etc., and we do not want this country to become a member of EU. They do not understand that we really do not want to become the member of EU. It's the first message. These moods are very high, and it's very easy to speak about Ukraine and manipulate about this topic. Second option is people really do not understand what is this trade agreement. I'm sure that they even do not know how many trade agreements EU has with other countries. They do not need to know it. Because it's very complicated agreement. And the last option, why such thing had happened in Ukraine, in Netherlands. If to speak about politicians, I had some meetings with Dutch politicians. Really, Dutch people are afraid to have bad relations with Russia, and they really believe that if they start this referendum, it will improve their relations with Russia.
Can we state that the no camp is highly agitated by Russian lobby groups?
At the moment, I think that when all these processes started in Netherlands, it was not supported by Russian institutions, but now I can suppose that they are supporting this campaign. It will be really stupid for Russia not to use such a possibility, because Putin was trying to do their best to block the process of negotiation of association agreement between Ukraine and the EU, and I think that at the moment they provide financial support, but if to be perfectly honest, it's difficult to find a real fact if they support or not.
We have one more video material for you and for our viewers concerning some human side of this problem. We have the video of activists who are there in Netherlands, and they are trying to provide their own campaign for voting yes in Netherlands. So let's watch it right now.
I think that appearance on the media, I would say, is not as is quite weak, and on streets, if to look on the streets, I think that I think since February there are a lot of banners. I saw it by myself. There are a lot of banners on the about the referendum let's say to ask people indeed to go to vote, but to go to vote to say no. Knowing the Dutch people a little bit, I think that if somebody understands and if somebody really wants to vote, they would definitely go to vote, either for no or yes, but they will definitely go to vote, because I think that they have an opinion. The Dutch people have an opinion. If you are not going, if you skip such kind of referendum or the election and some other national events, then afterwards you don't have any right as a person to say yeah, but and to say about the result.
The good thing is that we managed to get the significant increase of the people who are supporting the association agreement right now. We started with around, let's say, 15%, and altogether different parties, different yes camp campaigns, we managed to get around, let's say, around 10-15% increase compared to what we had in early December last year. So I take it as significant progress, but we still are below the no camp supporters, so we will still need to make an effort in next 2 weeks, specifically next 2 weeks, to be able to win it. We provided the number of, let's say, answers that mostly address those claims, and now they're shifting the focus that they actually were shifting it from the beginning, but they were trying to accompany that with the anti-Ukrainian arguments. But now they're shifting the focus towards the fact that the referendum is not against Ukraine, but mostly against the European Union. So they are trying to, when they lost their battle in the Ukrainian field, they are now trying to change the field of battle, to battle against the European Union. And that's how, in the latest week, it's widely positioned that we understand that that's not about Ukraine. We just want to say no to the policies of European Union. That's one of the arguments that is really hard to tackle, as long as Ukrainian side, who I represent and my colleagues represent, is not responsible for any European Union action. So we are not there to defend them.
So we can see that civil activists in Netherlands from Ukrainian side is more active than even our authority. Don't you think so?
At the moment, it's difficult to say, since when some of the activists asked in the representatives of our Ministry of Foreign Affairs what they are doing, they answered that after referendum we will say you what we are doing. I think that Ukraine is working actively on all levels, on official level, on the level of Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and also on the level of civil society activists and diaspora. We should understand one thing, that Netherlands like to organize referendums. We should remember 2004 when Dutch people organized referendum if to support or not to support EU constitution. And according to this experience, the most important period is 1 week before referendum. We should be very active in these last 2 weeks, since you before showed the figures, the level of those people who support association agreement and who do not support, it's like completely the same. But we should remember that those people who are against, they are usually very active. And I'm sure that most of these people will come to referendum and they will say no. But if to speak about those people who support, in general, they are not so active. And I'm not sure that these people 100% will come and say yes. So I'm sure that we all should be very active now, and we should appeal to these people who support to ask them to come to this referendum and to say yes.
Position.
Because now Dutch government, even those parties who support association agreement with Ukraine, they are trying not to speak about this very loud. They just say that, okay, we will look at the day of the referendum. If we see that the quantity of people who support Ukraine is not very high, only on this day we will be very actively speaking with our citizens and will ask them to come, but it's not enough. They are ready to speak only in the day of referendum, but we should stimulate people.
Yeah, I ask you about the official positions of the EU and Ukraine, because for the last time we didn't hear some loud statements from the both sides, and it seems quite strange, because it's our priority to get yes from this from Dutch people. So whether it is okay. So
it's difficult to answer. I'm sure that on the level of EU, on the level of EU institutions, of course they should support Ukraine, but at the moment they are in very difficult situation. Because of this high-level mood of Euroscepticism in Brussels, it is very clever that they are not very active, that they do not ask people, Dutch people, please come to vote, because in such way they will just irritate Dutch people. It's my personal position. So yeah. I think that it is very good approach not to be very active on the level of EU institutions, because Dutch people simply does not like them. In some cases they hate EU institutions. So I think it is very good. If to speak about Dutch government, I think that they are worrying because in 1 year they will have elections. All they are thinking about elections, and they do not want to show their active position even if they have it, because really this high level mood of Euroscepticism is too much in Netherlands, and we are just really not very lucky. Even those people who are ready to support us, they are not ready to say it very strongly and actively.
But we have to do everything possible from our side to promote yes voting for Ukraine.
I'm sure that Ukraine should work on this field, and Ukraine should promote. And I'm sure that Ukraine just need to show to Dutch people that if you want to have a stable neighbor on your border, you should sign this agreement, because it's only about trade. Also, this agreement will help Ukraine to implement lots of norms that will create good business climate, and for Dutch business it will be more easier to work here. So I think that in such way we should speak with Dutch people, that it's only about trade relations and about stability on the border of EU.
I see. Thank you very much for very fruitful discussion, for clear, comprehensive explanation of some questions. It was nice to meet you here in our studio. And our guest was Lyubov Akulenko, coordinator of European programs at the NGO Center UA. What was the previous week for the world? Watching the following story.
Became a witness and 3 attacks and stay alive. 19-year-old American Mason Bell survived after the attacks at the Boston Marathon. He was in Paris in November when terrorist attacks and suffered during the bombings in Brussels. The father of the boy said, 3 years ago in Boston he and his son waited for his wife at the finish line, and then there was an explosion. The family didn't suffer. In November Mason was in Paris. Yesterday he was in Belgium airport with 2 friends when triggered explosive devices. Now Mason in hospital with wounds and burns. American president in Cuba, at first time after 88 years. Barack Obama called this visit historical.
This is a historic visit, and it's a historic opportunity to engage directly with the Cuban people and to forge new agreements and commercial deals, to build new ties between our two peoples, and for me to lay out my vision for a future that's brighter than our past.
On the first day of his visit, Obama was walking with his wife and daughter in the historical center of Havana. Accompanied by the chief historian of the capital, the youth president and his family walked Plaza de Armas and visited the local museum. Despite the bad weather, President Obama welcomed by locals and tourists on the streets. Though in US-Cuban relations began in December 2014, then leader officially announced the start of the normalization of relations, which broke off in the early 60s, while Washington has imposed on Havana trade embargo. This was a response to the Cuban Revolution, which established the country's communist system. US reopened embassy in Havana in August last year, after Cuba resumed his work in Washington.
When President Obama was campaigning for the presidency, he often used the phrase, "Yes, we can."
Yes, we can.
Sí se puede.
Sí se puede.
Well, on U.S.-Cuban relations, like so many other issues he's tackled in his presidency, we can now say, yes, we did.
Yes, we did.
Besides meeting with Raul Castro, President Obama met with dissidents. Rocket Atlas V launched into open space from Cape Canaveral in USA. In addition, scientists will research new devices. With one of them, they will study the chemical composition of meteors. The second will help understand how their gravity fires occur. Rocket will arrive to the International Space Station on Saturday. In Japan presented the new equipment which helps employees of nuclear power plants of their activities in case of an accident. Project cost about $13 million. In the 70-meter wide monitors are sensors that show the pressure and temperature in the reactors. Besides that, they give opportunity to workers to check equipment operation just during accidents. It is impossible to analyze the state of the nuclear regulator and led to the accident at the Fukushima one in March 2011. Hundreds of Christians packed to St. Patrick Cathedral on Sunday to kick off Holy Week with the blessing of the palms and week before Easter. The Mass included a gospel account of Christ's trial before the Roman court and impending death at the cross. The greenery symbolized Jesus Christ's procession into Jerusalem for Passover, when the followers covered the road with a carpet of palms. Jesus was crucified on Good Friday and his resurrection of Easter Sunday in the central belief of Christianity. At the St. Peter's Square in the Vatican, Pope Francis kicked off Holy Week ceremonies there by blessing palm fronds and olive branches held by faithful followers.
And now back to events in Ukraine. Volodymyr Groysman is ready to become the head of new government if he gets the support of coalition. It was said by Speaker of Ukrainian Parliament after the sitting of coalition on 24th of March. Volodymyr Groysman was suggested for position of Prime Minister by Petro Poroshenko bloc. Leader of faction Yuri Lutsenko said that majority of factions are ready to support Mr. Groysman. New government should be approved by Ukrainian Parliament on Monday. Groysman himself told that he wants to see ex-Minister of Finance of Slovakia Ivan Miklush in new team and also one more potential Prime Minister, current head of Ministry for Finance of Ukraine, Natalia Savchenko.
An offer appeared from Petro Poroshenko bloc. Next, what needs to be done is that Petro Poroshenko bloc considers such proposition on this candidate within faction. The same should do the People's Front. Next, it should potentially be 4 factions. Petro Poroshenko bloc, the People's Front, Batkivshchina and the Radical Party have to show their willingness to form a new coalition. They will decide. Perhaps there will be some other options, and this is also acceptable. So I believe that now we are lacking the only one thing: those who are willing to take responsibility. I said that if this proposal is in my address, that is a challenge and high trust to me. I know what responsibility means, and I am ready to take this responsibility.
Journalist Georgy Hanhadze was buried in Kiev 15 years after his murder. People had come to say goodbye to Georgy to the church of Mykola Naberezhnyi. Georgy Hanhadze used to visit this church and he christened his children there. Now they had come from United States to say last farewell to him. The funeral service was performed near 4 hours. Journalists were not allowed to film the service. Wife and children of Georgy refused to speak on cameras. Journalists, MPs and civic activists visited the service. Georgy Hanhadze disappeared in Kiev on 16th of September 2000. In November, law enforcement found the body without head in Tarashinsky Wood of Kiev region. According to experts, the body belongs to Georgy Hanhadze. Then leader of socialists Alexander Moroz published the records which were made by the head of President's Security Service. These records testify about involvement of President Leonid Kuchma and head of presidential administration Mr. Litvin into murder. In 2009, fragments of brain pulp were found in Kiev region. According to Prosecutor's General Office, they belong to Georgy Hanhadze. In 2013, Pecher's Court of Kiev admitted the ex-General of Ministry of Internal Affairs Alexei Pukach guilty in his murder. He was convicted to life sentence, but the person who ordered the hit is still not punished.
Kuchma avoided the responsibility and Yushchenko did nothing that he promised. Yanukovych also promised that there would be the investigation. The current president, as far as I know, also conducted some talks concerning this. Why does not he finish this case? He should not be the investigator, but he should control this case. We met maybe not so often, but we always were glad to see each other. He was a very bright person, very sincere. He was an example for millions to understand what person they should be and how to live. Had he been alive, he would be on the front line again.
Situation in the ATO zone sharpens. Pro-Russian terrorists increased the quantity of shell fires on Donetsk and Lugansk directions. Not far from Avdiivka and Yasenovata battles are continuing.
This is the night battle not far from Avdiivka settlement. Shell fires are continued whole day long. Ukrainian soldiers keep industrial district on the outskirts of the settlement. This is strategic point. Separatists are trying to occupy it by any price. On Wednesday, 4 Ukrainian soldiers were wounded and 1 was killed. Brother, look at me. Painful, it is hard. Who is now easy? You can breathe, so lights are not damaged. But terrorists also have losses. Military intelligence report about 27 dead and near 40 wounded terrorists during the week on this direction. Leader of Donetsk terrorists Alexander Zakharchenko visits the positions of separatists. He wears military uniform. Suit is not mine cloth. I feel myself inconvenient. Zakharchenko eats with soldier knife, but doesn't take part in attack of Ukrainian positions. He sent next group there. Line of wounded terrorists go toward it. Industrial district is important for both sides. The road by which terrorists get their support and ammunition is well seen from there. Defenders of Avdiivka settlement were shell-fired by terrorists with 120 and 82 mm caliber. Terrorists took out the tank from which they made 12 shots. Also, the enemy let go 4 shells from 122 mm howitzer. The other important point near Avdiivka settlement is filtration plant, which gives water to neighbor settlements. It was hot night. 2 tanks of terrorists shell-fired this position. They made 11 shots. As a result, 2 buildings are destroyed. Shellfires stop only when OSCE mission comes. Now their car went away, so it's better for us to take a shelter.
Ukrainian rocket successfully passed the trial launch. As it was reported by Secretary of National Security and Defense Council Alexander Turchinov, as against the Russian one, Ukrainian rocket is fully controlled. It increased its efficiency. It is created without details, produced in Russian Federation.
Today's test launch has shown that Ukrainian rocket executed task plan in full extent and has touched the spot. This is not the only one rocket on which our specialists from Ukроборонпром work. We prepare the line of rockets for launching, efficient and powerful, which will defend our country.
The beginning of this week also was marked by celebration of beauty, fashion and style, as in Kyiv was held Ukrainian Fashion Week. Ukrainian designers shared their views and set new rules in the world of fashion for the fall-winter season 2016-2017. How to keep up with modern looks and stylish trends, watching the following story.
38th Ukrainian Fashion Week took place in Kyiv, under which 86 Ukrainian designers presented their new collections for fall-winter 2016-2017. Our mission is to expand the boundaries of fashion. That was the slogan of this year's Fashion Week. Within 7 days were held 56 shows, 15 presentations at 16 locations. Organizers surprised not only with a variety of projects, but with the new design of the main location, Art Arsenal. To create an organic design of space were invited well-known Ukrainian fashion artists and illustrators. Among the special projects was Ukrainian Battle of Tailors, within which, during 5 days, the best tailors of Ukraine could demonstrate their professional skills in the art of making men's suit. To check new fashion trends came also the Minister of Finance of Ukraine, Nadiya Savchenko. At one of the days, she visited Fashion Marathon with her daughter.
Extremely pleased to be here today and to support Ukrainian designers, Ukrainian creativity and Ukrainian extraordinary work. It is extraordinarily creative and it brings out the best and an incredibly high level of energy, so it's been a real pleasure to be here today.
Also, as a part of the first Jewelry Corner at Ukrainian Fashion Week, 5 Ukrainian designers presented their jewelry brands.
It's the first time our experience on this kind of level, because we designers, not mass production, only a few pieces and design like family treasures.
Special project Headwear showroom was intended to draw the attention of visitors to the new direction in which the designers have made significant progress, the creation of designer collections of hats.
На Ukrainian Fashion Week я уже представляю свою колекцию.
I present my collection for the second year, but the collection of hats I've made for the first time. The collection has 7 units, and it is called Orient, which from Latin means the East.
Що в перекладі з латини означає схід. Надихнули.
I was inspired by theater, inspired by East, inspired by Art Nouveau, as well as illustrations to the Song to the Nibelungs of 1909 by Karl Otto Czeszka. There I like ornamental pattern and coloring. On the main location of Fashion Week was an incredible festive atmosphere. Organizers came up with various contests for guests, which made everyone feel like a style icon. Both the visitors and the participants of Ukrainian Fashion Week shared their impressions of the wonderful celebration of beauty and style.
Я дуже давно працюю з українським тижнем моди, намагаюся відвідувати кожного разу.
I've been working with Ukrainian Fashion Week for a long time. I try to visit every time. The designers amaze me. You look at how they go up with the world. They follow, they try to show something new. They are never the same.
Вони намагаються показати щось нове, не повторюються ніколи. Були на показі в Парижі.
I was at show in Paris. Our designers, well, it is a level of Ukrainian fashion. You can never be ashamed for our designers because they are cool. Ukrainian fashion is a level.
I really love Ukrainian fashion, but last year I worked abroad in Tokyo, but this is my first season in Ukraine. We try to be more like ourselves, you know, different to other people, and in Tokyo they try to be like the same.
I love Lilia Pustavit. I love, this is actually Ukrainian designer, Lia Khmara, so I have a lot of clothes of Ukrainian fashion. I used to modeling for 15 years. Now I'm mother, so I quit.
I liked how the models showed their dresses.
Дуже приємна атмосфера, дуже цікаві люди.
It is a very nice atmosphere, very interesting people. You can meet celebrities and talk to them on your own. You can feel the beautiful, so it is pretty interesting.
Досить цікаво.
Light, transparent fabrics, fringe, metallic elements. These are the main trends of Ukrainian designers set for the season Fall-Winter 2016-2017. But you have absolute right to form your individual style and experiment with looks, not following completely, but rather look into the trends set by Ukrainian Fashion Week.
It was the weekly newscast by First Ukraine. Victoria Zabian was working for you in the studio. We wish you only good news. Take care and goodbye.